A very good evening and welcome back to Havana Media. My name is Boniface Owino, and as usual I'm going to be your host for today. Now I'm very glad here to be visited by one of the sheikhs. I'm going to give him time to introduce himself before we jump back to our discussion. Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sheikh Muhammad Khan, a member of the June 25th movement and very vocal in trying to regain our country back to its original form. Thank you.
Now, Sheikh, you've mentioned something concerning, before you talk about the alternative leadership, because that is what I want us to talk about. You mentioned something to do with the 25th movement.
Yes, June 25th is the day that the Mandamano started and our comrades were felled. So we have made it a movement such that we remember our comrades with it, and we'll be celebrating it every month. We started this month, and you can see that we were not allowed at August Memorial to hold our rally, our vigil. So we held it after all. We held it in Mombasa also. Some of us were arrested. We'll be holding it in Nakuru also. We have held it in Kisumu last week. We're going around the country. Na tunaingia pia mashinani katika social justice centers. We are trying to bring out that need that our fallen heroes are not forgotten. At the same time, we are trying to tell the government that we are not dead. We are in fact much more stronger than before. We are now much more organized. We are much more focused. We are not faceless anymore. Our faces are known. Those of us who are arrested and those of us who are abducted, we are known. So the movement is strong. And June 25th will be celebrated until now we come to June 25th, 2025, whereby we will have the first year anniversary, which will now accumulate here in Nairobi. And we will try to hold it with as many religious leaders as possible. We'll be holding prayers for comrades. We are not going to go back to the streets to demonstrate and waste times in the police stations and the courts. We are now have focused on a different agenda. It is the government that we want to understand what we want. So if demonstrations need be, we will do them. But otherwise, we have now taken off the streets because they're just wasting our time and hurting our comrades. Thank you.
So basically, the June 25th will be happening like every year.
Every month.
Every month.
Every month, yes.
So it's not like now we wait for the June every year. It's just every month.
No, we are building
month.
up. We're building up to June 25th of 2025. So this build up now is to do civic education to the people, exactly why people died and why they must be remembered. Yeah,
that's great. I know I'm very sure the movement has got a lot of the Gen Zs, the people that their loved ones who had died. And
yes, we have got the abductees' families, we have got the fallen heroes, and we have got even those who are passed away, their families, and those who survived. On top of that, remember the Gen Z movement was started by the youth, but now we've got people who are mature enough who are also part of the movement. The same way Mau Mau Freedom was started in Murima, but Achieng Oneko, Paul Ngei, hawakuwa watu wa Murima. So the movement was started by Gen Z, but right now we have other members who also own it, and we work together to make sure that we have a clean society for our future generations.
That's great. Now, let us now get into our discussion about the alternative leadership.
Yes.
We know very well that right now our country is at stake.
Yeah.
Like the leaders that we have right now, they are more of themselves, and like the way people expected them maybe to take care of other people's needs or citizens. So coming up with an alternative leadership, what is your plan like?
I'm not going to discuss the details of that plan because remember everything has to be done behind the scenes. But the main thing is we should understand that the colonialists never left. They sort of got some puppets through Jomo Kenyatta and his allies. And we thought that we had Uhuru, but basically the Mau Mau, especially Dedan Kimathi, was eliminated. We also have very high doubts that it was not Dedan Kimathi who was arrested because we see the person arrested does not have a scar on the face, yet Dedan Kimathi had a scar. And then after him being hanged, why are they refusing to tell us where his grave is? So basically Jomo Kenyatta was sort of like the puppet. He spoke English, he studied law, he used to wine and dine with them, he even married them. So basically he was a white man in black skin. And is it a coincidence? Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Jomo Kenyatta are all lawyers. Why is it that they studied their law and then they were brought in? So we feel that the colonials really never left. And that's why it's not only the Ruto that administration that we are against, we are trying to overhaul the whole system. Tunataka sisi wa Afrika wenyewe, tukae chini, tuwaze, what are the laws that benefit us and what are the laws that suit Africa?
Now, talking about the laws that suits Africa, I think let us look at it Africa before you come back to Kenya.
Yes.
Africa has got a lot of good leaders.
Yes.
But now the problem, I don't know where the problem comes from, whereby we find that these good leaders, when they get into power, they change.
Because nakumbuka tuliambiwa kwamba if you look at Jicho Pevu, if you look at other leaders like Hussein Mohamed who are criticizing Ruto, wakiingia parliament ni kama wanasalimia pale kwa mlango na shetani. So I don't know what happens, but we are trying to make sure that we have good leaders. You can see how Traore is doing. You can see the other generals around West Africa, Senegal and Burkina Faso and the rest. Okay, so we're trying to reach out and see how we can first build our country before now we reach out as Africa. Because first we have to make sure we stabilize at home. And we have realized one thing. The Norwegians, the Finns, the Swedes, the English, these were tribes. And they became nations. And then they came to Africa and put our tribes, several of them, under one nation. So you see, it has made us very hard to unite. Unlike the Finns, they were a tribe. So they were put under one nation and they grew. And today they are very strong. The Norwegians and the Swedes and the Scandinavians and so forth. So if the Europeans could work as a tribe and become nations, why can't we as Africa go down to the table and see, is it possible for us to go back to our tribal movements, tribal alignments, build ourselves up, and then come back as a country? There's nothing wrong. There's a difference between being tribalistic and loving ethnicity. So we love our ethnic background. So we should go back to our ethnic background, build ourselves, and then when we come back, especially now the youth have understood that ethnicity is, they appreciate ethnicity, and they shun tribalism. And they find that me and you, we were born in a tribe we did not choose. So why does it keep us apart? So right now when you hear we are saying tribalist, like kama mimi ni Muhindi. Lakini when I'm in the movement, no one points it out. Everyone feels mimi ni mzalendo hata kuliko wale ambao kwa serikali. Wanafikiri wanasema hata kuna wengine kwa serikali ambao ngozi ni nyeusi lakini wao ni wazungu wa koloni, wabeberu mambo leo. Na mimi ambaye ngozi yangu ni tofauti lakini we are more patriotic than them. And if you go back to history and understand the Mau Mau freedom, you'll be amazed to know that the Mau Mau basically were incited by the Asian community. Mwafrika alikuwa anaogopa sana mzungu. But we, back in 1947, we had already gained our independence in India. So we had beaten the colonialists, white and blue. Or should we say black and blue? So wale wa India walikuwa hapa, ndio wakaanza kuchocheza Afrika kwamba huyu mzungu anaweza kuuliwa. The African was sort of like considering the European a demigod. Walikuwa naogopa sana. So we the Indians are the ones who incited the Mau Mau. And on top of that, we are the ones who protected, sheltered, and fed the Mau Mau. Because you as an African, ungeonekana umeenda msituni na basket yako, ungeulizwa unaenda wapi. Mimi Muhindi nilikuwa natoka na picnic basket na familia yangu, naingia msituni anafikira mzungu anaona kama he's trying to become like a European, kumbe napelekea Mau Mau chakula. Na duka zote huko upande wa Mount Kenya ilikuwa zetu sisi Wahindi. Sisi ndio tulikuwa manyapara. Kwa hivyo Mau Mau walipokuwa wanakuja kuchukua vitu tulikuwa hatuwalipishi. Kwa hivyo natakana watu waelewe kwamba sisi Wahindi pia ni wenye nchi.
I think that is another thing that imefanya Kenya, imefanya sisi wananchi ama watu wengi sana wakafika pale ambapo wanaona kwamba let us separate ourselves from these people, but they really don't know what you do behind the scene. Like now umeeleza vizuri kwamba during the time of Mau Mau movement, you are the people who are feeding these guys and without paying anything.
Not even feeding, hiding them, sheltering them. So mzungu alikuwa anakuja anauliza have you seen any Mau Mau? Sisi Wahindi na ile kizungu yetu no, we have not seen any Mau Mau. Kumbe tumeficha watu. Sababu wao walikuwa wanatuamini sisi ndio manyapara wao. So they did not expect us to protect them, but we knew. We knew who the enemy was. We were here by force. We were not at tulikuja because of our own will. Tuliletwa kama wafungwa. Kwa hivyo we are the ones who protected Mau Mau.
So you are there, you're protecting these people without knowing that the same people that you're protecting one day will come back na wageuke.
Mageuzi siwezi walaumu kwa sababu baadhi wa India kuna madharau. Hiyo madharau ndio inafanya Mwafrika anachukia Muhindi. Mzungu anakukanyaga lakini he comes very nicely and approaches you in a very polite manner. So ni ile ulimitamu. Lakini Muhindi kwa sababu ya ile caste system ndani ya Hindus ndio ilifanya walikuwa na dharau Afrika kwa sababu wao wenyewe labda kwao walikuwa na dharauliwa. Kwa hivyo madharau ndio ilifanya Afrika wawachukie, sio kitu kingine.
Also ni madharau tu.
Hiyo madharau na kunyanyasa Mwafrika.
So in other words unajaribu kusema kwamba what they were getting is what they deserve.
Yes, because those who protected Mamo, if you go to the let's say the Mount Kenya area, Wahindi huko wanaheshimiwa. Hata you see right now the MP for Meru ni Muhindi.
Yeah, ni Muhindi, yeah.
And he might even become the governor. Na wanaongea Kimeru. Kwa hivyo ukienda area za Murima, utapata Wahindi wanaheshimika kwa sababu wale they know who these guys are. Lakini Wahindi kwingine hawakujua hiyo kitu na waliendelea na tabia kudharau watu. So that is what makes the African now sort of not like the Indians.
Yes. So it's not about the skin color or it's just about the behavior.
Yes.
No, that one is interesting. Sasa nataka tuzungumze sasa turudi sasa kwenye serikali sasa. Hapo sasa ndo kuna mambo sasa.
Ndio.
Hapa tumekuwa na Rigathi Gachagua, tumekuwa na William Samoei Ruto, wamefanya kazi pamoja. Alafu kwa bahati mbaya ama tuseme tu bahati nzuri, hao watu wawili wakaenda wakatengana. Utengano wao umekuwa wakati ambapo Rais William Ruto alisema kwamba siwezi nikafanya kazi na Rigathi Gachagua. Wewe unahisia kwamba William Ruto alifanya makosa kumtoa Rigathi Gachagua kwenye ofisi?
Haki yangu. Mimi nimekuwa katika siasa kutoka mwaka wa 2013 wakati niliweza hata kuombesha Kasarani Manifesto launch kwa Uhuru Kenyatta. So mimi nilikuwa nimempenda Uhuru. Lakini Ruto, we will not discuss him here. Lakini kitu iko ni kwamba hii yote ni mchezo anafanya. Kwani Gachagua amesumbua Ruto kuliko vile Ruto alikuwa anasumbua Uhuru?
Hapana.
Lakini kwa nini Uhuru hakumuondoa? Kwa hivyo hii ni mchezo anafanya. Hawa wanasiasa wote ni kitu moja. You should not be amazed to find that kwamba they are trying to push us down one lane. Gachagua anatusukuma akituambia maneno Murima. And he's trying to bring people under Murima. Upande mwingine Ruto ni tugul. Kwa hivyo what we are seeing in 2027 ni kama wao waliona emergency movement, they are trying to now align themselves. This movement was not for the politicians to align themselves. Okay, so they want to push us into an area whereby in 2027 it's Tugul versus Murima. Unaona juzi Martha Karua alikuja
wakasalimiana
wakasuluhishiana na Gachagua. Gachagua wakakuja katika launch ya DAP Kenya na Wamalwa na Kalonzo. But let me tell you one thing. These politicians are lying to themselves. Sisi we are just sitting on the side and watching. Sababu hao katika miaka 30 na 40 hawakufanya chochote. What is it new that they will do? If we as the Gen Z movement have decided that any politician, any seasoned politician who has nothing to show for what he has done during his tenure as a politician, wacha aingia kwa nini kwa ballot atapata 0 votes. Hata labda hata bibi yake atampigia. We already need Juicy Citizen TV niliona Nelson Harvey. He was expressing exactly what we had discussed. So sometimes we felt, kwani alipataje information? He said there are 2 cannibalistic movements, Murima and Tugul. And there's a third one called the June 25th, and he named us. How did he know this movement was called June 25th movement? And he said June 25th movement is the only one that can threaten these 2, because these 2 are the same people from the same fabric. The only thing with us, the Gen Z movement, is when it comes to resources, we are a bit low. But we are trying to see how we can gain politically. If we have the resources, even me, myself, I can run for governor. It is just the resources that are sort of a downfall. So we are trying to see, because these same politicians, once they use the resources, when they go into parliament or they go into county assembly, they try to recover the resources through any means. And they try even to make a killing of it. So we are trying to change, because Morara started a very nice thing. But this sorry thing is that Morara became a one-man show. If Morara comes on board on the movement and now works as a team leader, we are ready to work with him. But if he starts showing us the way Kina Kasbul wanafanya, we don't need those guys. We have got more than enough Kenyans who can fill in those posts. So whether it's Kalonzo, Eugene, Martha Karua na wengine, we have no problem with them. They should sit on the side and become our political advisors, because they are experienced. But if they think that they still have to vie, then they're in for a surprise.
So the main thing here is not all about it's not all about who you are. It's about what can you do? What can you do to the people?
Yes.
Because now the main interest here is serve the people.
Now, you see, if, for example, let's take it, if today I was the governor of Nairobi, the first thing I'll do is I'll sit down and check what are the sources of income for the county government. What are the duties of the county government and the national government? I want to differentiate. Then I want to see what are the expenses of the county government. Then what are the main tasks that the county government is supposed to perform? They're basically three: infrastructure, health, education, water and sanitation. Four. So these are the main concerns of a county government. The concerns of a county government is sio ni kwenda kutengenezea mtu kiosk ama kupatia mtu kazi. No. They should make an environment whereby I can employ myself or I can be employed. They should have a conducive environment. They should make laws whereby they can accommodate the hawkers. Leo tunaona hawkers wanafukuzwa kama waizi. Kwa nini? These hawkers should be regulated. If I was the governor of Nairobi, what I would have done? I would have gone down to these hawkers. Let's see, for example, those who are selling clothes along Kimathi Street. So I tell them to register under Kimathi clothes. Those in Kijabe, they are selling fruits. Register them under Kijabe fruits. Okay, maybe those in Moi Avenue, they're selling shoes. Moi Avenue shoes. So that way, I will know which hawker is where and is selling what. And then if there are more than one, you can write shoes 1, shoes 2, shoes 3, so forth. Once we have done that, then we regulate them. We let them know how to keep the city clean and how not to congest the pathways. That is the way to work with these guys. These guys can bring in a lot of income. Then we have to make sure there's a bond between the shopkeepers and the hawkers. Because remember, sometimes these shopkeepers feel these hawkers are a threat because they're selling the goods cheap. They don't have to pay rent. So that is the main thing. I think the county government is trying to protect the shops more than the hawkers. We can have a working schedule whereby the shop should open from 9 to 4. After 4 to the next day 9, hawkers wafanye vile anataka. So these same shopkeepers can give their wares to the hawkers, continue selling. It becomes a 24/7 economy. That is how we're supposed to work. Nairobi becomes very safe. That is how I would have worked with the hawkers. We have to accommodate them. We have to regulate them. Watu wa mkokoteni juzi naona Mosira sijui anatoa mkokoteni zao anavunja anapeleka. Why? Let this guy park in the spaces at night. There's no problem. Okay? Just regulate them in such a way that these people usually pay overnight fees. Imagine, I have done my small calculations. Just one area is bringing in 40,000 shillings per day. Per day. So if the county government gives them a nightly, monthly fee and say, nyinyi mtalipa 1,000 tu kwa mwezi, we have over 4 billion or 6 billion shillings just for parking. And what are those places being used at night?
Nothing.
And these street boys, if they're sleeping on the streets, they are doing it not because of choice. We should find a way. Why are they sleeping on the streets? If they are not thugs, if they are not muggers, we should try and accommodate them. If they are muggers and thieves, then the law should take precedent. So you see, the governor is more concerned about his pocket than concerned about the citizen. Okay? Like, if you remember when you were younger, the city council used to charge around 700 shillings, if I remember, 300 to 700 shillings. I don't remember very nicely. And they used to provide you with a dustbin. They used to collect your taka, and they used to provide you water. Water is a natural resource. It should not be sold to the citizen. It should be served to the citizen. Then you charge for the fee for service, for the electricity and for the pumps. You don't sell the water. Right now, the county government and the national governments are selling water to the citizen, which is not allowed. Who gave them the right to own water? Water, land, sunlight, and air. These are natural resources. We should not be charging for that. So we should find a way that, let's say, okay, at that time, the population of Kenya was less than 1 million. So if you are being charged 700 shillings per year, it was per year. So that's 700 million. If 700 million at that time, and I remember at that time there was a mayor called Stephen Mwangi, a very good guy. I was a young child at that time, but I still remember him very fondly because lori zake zilikuwa zinafagia Nairobi usiku, and they were orange in color, zilikuwa zimetoka Holland. So you know, as we as kids, we were very excited. Those lorries, they used to sweep and whatever. So we used to look at him at night. He sweeps the streets. I'm sorry to say he died an unnatural death. So if 700 million was enough to provide water and to clean, collect garbage, and be provided with a dustbin, why is it not possible today? Whereby now the population of Nairobi is maybe 4 million, because from the voters register, it's plus or minus 4 million. 4 million, and let's say because of inflation, we raised from 700 to 7,000. That means we have 28 billion shillings in our hands.
Yeah.
Clean money to collect garbage and to provide water. What is the workforce of Nairobi? How many workers are there in city council? I did as a rough calculation that if I was supposed to 17 constituencies, if I have 7,000 workers, I think they are enough to collect the garbage all around. 7,000 workers, if I pay them even a minimum of 30,000 Kenyan shillings.
Every month.
Every month. In a year, it comes to 2.52 billion. I have collected 28 billion, 2.52 billion. Even if I multiply this by and make them 70,000 workers, it still comes to 25.2 billion. This money is more than enough. Where is it going? I want to ask the government, where is this money going? So the thing is, I would like to be governor, but the thing is, I don't have the resources to campaign. So what the Mwananchi should do, if we want an alternative leadership, we should identify people. Doesn't matter their age, their tribe, or their faith. We have people whom you can see what they have done on the ground. And we nominate them. Let no one offer himself for a need for a post. Let us nominate them and let us campaign for them. If unataka mtu akuwe MCA, you can print 1,000 posters and give it to him. Another one prints another 1,000 posters
and give it to him,
and campaign for him. I want to be the governor. You can put up billboards for me. Okay, we want Sheikh to be the governor. So that is the way we are going to fund ourselves, because the moment we start using our own resources, then when we got into office, we try to recover that. But the moment you fund us, then we become answerable. Not even just me, we become answerable to you. So you can imagine there's money around. Now, if I've spent maybe 2.5 on the workforce, let's even make it double of that, 5 billion. I still have 23 billion. Is 23 billion not enough for me to make hospitals that will cater for chemotherapy, kidney dialysis, surgery? Okay, I just bring those machines because those machines are one-time expense. Once those machines have come in, then wewe kununua dawa. Dawa usually is duty-free. But when it comes to Kenya, kuna watu wanakulia.
You have to buy it.
If you look at a drug coming from India, it comes at around 18 shillings. 18 shillings, an antibiotic. Ikikuja hapa inauzwa 160 bob. Kwa nini? Because kuna watu wanakulia. Okay, if it comes in 18 shillings, when it lands at the port, without any taxes, let's say the expenses for transport 3 shillings. So by the time it reaches your city, it should be the maximum 25 shillings.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that? Why are we sleeping on the government? It is either the Ruto administration doesn't know what it is doing, or they think we are fools. Labda hii ni mwerevu wa kupindukia, ama sisi ni wapumbavu wa mwisho. One of the two things. So it's time for the citizens to wake up and start asking these things. Another thing that I'd like to bring into attention, the land does not belong to the county government. So when I've got a land and then you start charging me land rates, for what? What service is it that you're doing on the land that you have to charge me land rates? There's no service you're offering me. So land, once you have bought, it should, whether it's freehold, the title, it should have no land rates. Those land rates are just a means of lining the pockets of these politicians. Permits. Why do I need a permit for me to colony? You as a government, you should provide for me an environment, okay, so that when I bring taxes, that is enough. Why should I need a permit and a health permit and this permit and a fire permit? All these are stupid things. How many fires have been extinguished with a fire extinguisher? None.
Yeah.
These are things that the colonialists left us with. Kwa hivyo natakana tutoke katika ukoloni ile, tuanze kufikiria sisi wa Afrika. Okay? Vipi tutaweza kujimudu? How can we sustain ourselves? You can see one of our Ariana, one of the ladies, is talking about how people are talking about Africa being poor. So if you are being poor, why don't you leave our continent alone? Why are you all the time
in Africa? Yet it's poor.
So let's come back to you.
And another thing, you mentioned something very critical during one of your conversations. You've said that one of the main problems that changamoto kubwa ambayo pengine inaweza kaumiza the alternative to you people to offer alternative leadership ni mambo na resources, pesa,
rasilimali.
Kwa sababu unapata wakati kama huu wale ambao kwenye uongozini ambao wanaongoza sasa ni kama wameficha hela, wanangoja wakati wa campaign. So when you'll be coming now to campaign or maybe to say that you want this position, now they'll come behind you and offer the tip. So that one will, it's like they will it will be a counter attack.
Tumejipanga. We are not sleeping. Right now, you see our June 25th movement. There are two main things that we are doing. Other than civic education, I personally am reaching out. In our next rally, you will see I will bring out forms ambapo kijana yote ambaye hajapata ID nitamwambia andike jina yake kamili na namba za simu. Tunataka tushughulikia vijana wapate ID. Kumbuka hiyo shilingi 1,000 kwa watu wengi ni mingi
sana, yeah.
We are looking for sponsors and we are reaching out and we'll be sharing our pay bill number. Kama unaweza saidia hata kijana moja ulipie shilingi 1,000, jo tafadhali. Tunataka vijana wapate ID. We are targeting almost 10 million youth to get IDs. So after that, even if you get 5 million, that means that's a 5 million basket, vote basket we've got. So we already tumejipanga. Ya pili, tunaambia wazee hakuna shida, mtu akileta magara mere, ama magara madhano, chukua. Kuado. Menya kabisa. Chukua hiyo pesa, usiwachilie. Kalonzo akikuja naye chukua. Morara akikuja naye chukua. Ruto akileta chukua. Kula. Lakini kura
hakuna mwenye atajua mpiga kura wapi.
Hii maneno, we are very patriotic to the guy who has paid us. Unajua what these politicians do? I've been in politics. During the nominations, hawaendangi at elections, during the nominations, wanaangalia which party is very famous. Alafu usiku wa manane wanaenda wakitembea kila bar. Wananunulia walevi 10. Huyo mlevi asubuhi akiamkia nomination, anasema huyo na anapitisha. Okay, but the main thing is this is the game they are playing. So once you get the party ticket, then it becomes easier for the elections. So naambia watu hasa Wahindi na wale ambao ni wasome wa Karen na palingine, siku ya nomination ndio mtokee. That is the main, hiyo kuchambua wakati hiyo. Unachuja wakati hiyo. Those are the people you are supposed to be very careful. Once in nominations you get a party ticket. That's where the whole game is. The other thing is, I ask myself, why should I have a party? What does it help in parliament? If I am representing Mathare constituency, why do you need a party? All I need to be is in parliament as an MP. I present the problems of Mathare. They are discussed. And then I convince my fellow MPs to vote for that. Why do we need parties? These parties basically are riding vehicles for the presidential aspirants. They are nothing more. So we should do away with parties. Let everyone be independent. So these parties charge a fee. And then some of these politicians who have made their name, ukitaka hiyo tikiti, sometimes they're getting direct tickets. Okay, I'm not going to name the parties. Unalipa. And then they've got a memorandum of understanding kwamba 30% of your salary will be going to fund the party headquarters. You can see how are these Jubilee and Azimio running. Even wakati yakuna elections, they are running on that. So we have to do away with the parties. We don't need the parties. Kila kitu ya mzungu sio lazima tuchukue. Me as an independence, nawakilisha watu wangu, nakuja pale, ile ambayo inatatiza watu wangu naileta. Alafu tujadiliane. So at that time we'll not be aligned to anyone. And that is what we are trying to push. Hivyo pesa mtu akileta kula, hatuna shida naye. Lakini chagua mtu ambaye miaka 5 ijayo utajigamba kwamba afadhali nimechagua huyu na mimi ni I am very proud. Najigamba kwa kuchagua mtu kama huyo. Otherwise ukiwa unasema 200, 500 ukiangalia kwa miaka 5 ni shilingi 100 kwa mwaka. That means ni 10 bob kwa mwezi. Unauza kura yako 10 bob. Alafu tena tumesikia kuna mikakati ya kuandikisha wale ambao si wa Kenya, sababu wametoa ile manaveti. Tumejipanga. Ruto, you'll be surprised. Sahi hatusemi. You'll be surprised.
Now Sheikh, how did we get it wrong when it comes now to the elections or maybe to the nomination?
The narrative. You know, politicians play out to the gallery. Politicians usually don't play their own narrative. They look at what the gallery wants. And that is the main thing. Sometimes it's a tribal card. Sometimes it's a resource card. Anaangalia vile watu wako. Huwezi pata politician ameingia Karen akifanya campaign. Kwa sababu anajua watu wa Karen watapiga because of education. So most politicians keep their constituents ignorant and poor. Ndio sasa ikikuja wakati election anawadanganya. Lakini ukienda pale kama Karen ama Halingam ama ni hizo area kubwa, huwezi pata watu wa campaign. So those guys know where they're voting. Wanaenda tu maslums, okay? Kibira, Mathare, huko chini ni Mukurini, Wanjenga. Lakini sisi vijana pia tumejipanga. This time we have got our social justice centers in each and every slum. Okay, I don't call them slums, low grade areas. We are there. Tunajaribu kuwazisha watu na kuelimisha kwamba wewe mtu akileta pesa chukua, usikatae. Pesa haida chochote na sio haramu, chukua. Lakini kura pigia mtu ambaye unajua atawajibika kwako. So we are doing our civic education. And a lot of the things I would not like to discuss here kwa sababu najua kuna watu wanasikiza. Na sitaki nitoe siri zetu. Lakini what is there is that now we have moved away from demonstrations to planning, organizing and confronting the government. So hata kesho mkisimamisha elections we are ready.
So the problem shida imekuwa unapata wale viongozi, you've mentioned something very 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 much important yenye ningependa ujaribu kueleza kiundani. Unapata kiongozi anaongoza tuseme kisehemu like member of parliament. Kuna sehemu yake, constituency yake. Na unapata huyu kiongozi afanye yale maendeleo ambayo anapaswa kuyafanya. Kisa na maana anategea mwaka wa uchaguzi ukifika ndio aende pale aanze kuambia kwamba nitafanya. But the resources have been given. So can you try to at least elaborate that?
Yes, kitu iko, you see wakoloni wamewapatia agenda. You see usually these guys travel abroad. I remember, I'm not going to name the person. We were supposed to host them at a certain function in Korea. Last minute, they canceled and said, no, we are going to Washington for a prayer breakfast meeting. Hii prayer breakfast meeting ambayo tuko hapa Nairobi ni upuzi. The one that is done in Washington is usually it gets all the African leaders together or all the third world leaders together, and they are coached on what to do. And they go with a lot of their MPs and their parliamentarians. So there they are given an agenda and how to play around with the minds of the people. They are psychologically prepared. So unapata mtu anajua vile anafanya kwa sababu unapata agenda is the same. So basically mara hii sisi tumejipanga na vijana tumeingia mashinani. Tumeanza kuwazisha watu na kuelimisha kwamba haya maafa yote ambayo tunayapata ni kwa sababu sisi wenyewe. It's the work of our hands. So unless and until we have a paradigm shift, there's nothing that will change in this country. Right now you see Kina Martha Karua and the rest, they're realigning themselves. This movement was not for you to realign yourself. Okay, they're telling us, oh Sheikh, don't worry, we have to all get together and fight Ruto. So if you have to all get together, why don't you accept our leadership and you become our political advisors? Stay on the side. Let us attack the Ruto administration, get rid of it, but they have their own interests. They think this is just a chance for them to get into government. Okay? I will not be surprised if tomorrow Kalonzo Musyoka joins Ruto. Because these politicians can never be trusted. Okay? The only person I know is very rigid is Martha Karua. But Martha Karua also is playing the tribal card. That's why we are now sort of like doubting what her intentions are. Because Gachagua ndio ule ambaye alituuza huko na mchele na nyama. According to Gachagua kwa Kikuyu tunamuita Muthigani. Judas. Huyo ndo Judas. Yeye na Kimani Ichung'wah na Sabina Chege na Ndini Nyoro na Justin Muturi. Wote ndo Muthigani. Hao ndo walituuza kwa Ruto. Kwa hivyo, why do we make them the kingpin? This thing about kingpin. Who made you the kingpin? He said this is the thing that they are playing the tribal card. Because the kingpin is only played when there's a tribal issue at hand. Okay? So if they are going to move out of that, and if let's say they say it's supposed to be Murima versus Tugul, then let that Murima be accommodative and let us choose a person based on his competency, not because of his tribe. So that even the president and the running mate of the same tribe, but because they're competent, we will have no problem with it. So that's why we are saying as youngsters, wengine wanasema, oh, you are inexperienced. Fine, we are inexperienced. But I'd rather choose an inexperienced youth leader who will go there and learn, make mistakes and rectify them than this old guards who are used to the system and who will try and use the same system to run this country. We want an overhaul of the system, not the constitution. The constitution is very okay. It's the implementation. The only way we can implement that is for you to bring in new blood. Afadhali tujaribu mtu mpya hata akituumiza tushazoea. Kuliko tuendelee tu tukijidanganya tu huyu mtu atachange. He will never change. And old leopard does not change his spots. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Kwa hivyo hawa wazee tuwafagie. We are draining the swamp. Tunafagia wote. Kwa hivyo if you are a seasoned politician who has done nothing, who has nothing to show for what he has done during his term, anza kuchipanga.
So Sheikh,